For majority of the past decade, Nigeria has been borrowing aggressively to fund its budget. Africa's biggest economy suffered two recessions in 2016 and 2020 and has been borrowing massively in the process.
Each of those recessions for Nigeria was a V-shaped recession, which means we got into recession and got right back out. The truth is that without the expansionary fiscal stance, which was only made possible given the weak revenue performance by the borrowings, it will not have been possible for the country to emerge that quickly from recession.
But the borrowings have ballooned the country's debt profile from $61 billion in June 2016, just before the first recession, to over $100 billion in the third quarter of 2022, 2 years after the second recession.
Currently, almost 100% of our revenue is now being used to service the debt. So the situation is really very bad, and it's something that needs to be dealt with as quickly as we can.
I mean, debts in themselves are not really bad for an economy. Most developed countries in the world even owe, and have more debt portfolio. And as a result, Nigeria would actually need more, of those debts to probably do more for itself in the future. However, that is built on the premise that we can get our acts together in terms of core revenue mobilization.
Nigeria's revenue performance over the past 5 years has indeed been poor, and even made worse by the pandemic-induced slowdown and poor receipts from oil caused by massive crude theft.
Over 60% of our external debt is actually from concessional sources. So we're talking of costs below that are at most 3% and are spread out over a long period. If we didn't have those strategies in place, the debt service will actually be higher. So while people talk about debt stock is growing, a lot of it is actually long tenor, both the external and the domestic, and they are not all due now. We would like to see more revenue so that the debt service to revenue ratio is high.
Nigeria's debt challenge is indeed a revenue one. The government has introduced several revenue initiatives in recent times. It's increased VAT from 5% to 7.5%, but even that figure is still among the lowest on the continent.
We need reforms around our oil and gas, around subsidy. We need reforms around our foreign exchange market so that it can have more investments. We need reforms around the cost of governance. How do we reduce the cost of governance so that the pressure on government finances will be much less? We need to reform our tax environment too.
Despite concerns over the rise in debt, the government insists it's within manageable level and has assured it will not default in servicing its debt obligations. One good news for the country is that oil production level is now going back up, meaning more revenue for the country if the government's operation against oil theft continues to hold. Deji Bademasi, CGTN, Lagos, Nigeria.